The Thursday evening that destroyed my carefully constructed life began with such mundane normalcy that looking back, I should have recognized it as the calm before devastation. I was sitting in my home office, the one Lisa had insisted we convert from the spare bedroom 3 years ago, claiming I needed a proper workspace separate from the restaurant. My laptop was balanced on my knees, the weight familiar and comforting after countless evening sessions reviewing inventory orders and staff schedules. The spring rain tapped against the windows in that gentle Chicago rhythm that usually soothed me, but that night it would become the soundtrack to my world's unraveling. My name is Tom Rodriguez, and at 41, I believed I had achieved everything I dreamed of when I was washing dishes in other people's kitchens at 19. The American dream, immigrant parents edition, work yourself to the bone, save every penny, build something from nothing, and eventually you'll have made it. My restaurant, the Blue Door, stood as proof that sometimes the dream actually comes true. After 15 years of 16-hour days, missed holidays, and more close calls with bankruptcy than I cared to remember, we'd not just survived, but thrived. The notification popped up on my phone while I was mindlessly scrolling, waiting for a conference call with my fish supplier, who always ran 15 minutes late. Tagged photos from the Andersons' anniversary party last weekend. David Anderson had been one of my first regular customers when the Blue Door was just 6 tables and a prayer. Now he owned 3 hotels and insisted on using us for all his events. I'd missed his 30th anniversary party due to a catastrophic equipment failure in our kitchen. The main oven had literally caught fire during Saturday dinner service, and I'd spent the weekend supervising emergency repairs. Lisa had gone to represent us both. "Someone needs to show face," she'd said, kissing me goodbye while I was elbow deep in burned wiring with the repair crew. "The Andersons will understand why you're not there, but they'd be hurt if neither of us came." She'd worn the emerald dress I'd bought her for our own anniversary 2 years ago. It brought out the green flecks in her hazel eyes and made her skin seem to glow. Even after 15 years of marriage, she could still take my breath away when she dressed up. I smiled at the first few photos, Lisa laughing with David's wife Sharon, Lisa at the elaborate dessert table we'd actually catered, Lisa raising a champagne glass and a toast. Then I saw it. A candid shot, obviously taken without the subject's knowledge. Lisa stood at the bar in the background, partially obscured by other party guests, but unmistakably her. Brian Fitzgerald was beside her, our tax attorney for the past 5 years. The man who'd guided us through the labyrinth of restaurant finances and helped us save thousands through clever but legal tax strategies. At first glance, it seemed innocent enough. 2 acquaintances chatting at a social event. But I'd been married long enough to read body language like a second language. The way she angled her body toward him, completely focused despite the party swirling around them. How his hand rested on her lower back, not casually but possessively. The intimate distance between them, that bubble of space that lovers create without conscious thought. Her hand on his chest, fingers spread against his shirt in a gesture so familiar it made my stomach clench. Then I read the caption. "Great couples night. Love spending time with these amazing people." The tags included Brian and Monica Fitzgerald, along with several other couples I recognized from our social circle. Monica Fitzgerald. In 5 years of professional relationship with Brian, through countless meetings and consultations, he had never once mentioned a wife. Not once. I thought back. Had I ever asked? Surely it must have come up. Lisa always insisted on attending our quarterly tax planning meetings, claiming she wanted to understand our finances better since she managed the restaurant's books. Those meetings often ran long, sometimes requiring follow-up sessions at Brian's office downtown. Lisa would come home from those meetings energized, excited about new financial strategies, eager to implement Brian's suggestions. My finger hovered over Monica's name. After a moment's hesitation that felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, I clicked. The profile that loaded made my blood run cold. Monica Fitzgerald was stunning in an understated, professional way. Sharp cheekbones, intelligent eyes that seemed to see through the camera, an expression that suggested she didn't suffer fools gladly. Her bio was concise but impressive. Federal prosecutor, financial crimes division, mother of 2, married to my best friend for 8 years. Justice isn't just a job, it's a calling. 8 years. They'd been married 8 years. The photos told a story of domestic perfection that made my chest tight. Brian and Monica at their wedding, him in a perfect tuxedo, her in an elegant sheath dress. Brian teaching a boy who looked exactly like him to ride a bike. Monica and 2 children at Disney World, Mickey Mouse ears on all 3 heads. Christmas cards with the Fitzgerald family in elegant gold script. A recent photo from what looked like a school play. Brian and Monica, beaming as their daughter, dressed as a sunflower, took a bow on stage. Every photo radiated the kind of family happiness that couldn't be faked. These weren't posed professional shots designed to project an image. They were candid moments of genuine joy. Brian pushing both kids on a tire swing, Monica braiding their daughter's hair before what looked like a dance recital. The 4 of them covered in flour after what the caption described as epic Saturday morning pancake battle. My hands had started trembling. I set the laptop aside, stood up, paced to the window. The rain had intensified, streaming down the glass in rivers that distorted the streetlights below. My reflection stared back, a middle-aged man in a wrinkled shirt, reading glasses pushed up on his head, the beginning of gray at his temples that Lisa always said made me look distinguished. "You're being paranoid," I said aloud to my reflection. "You're tired, stressed about the restaurant, and you're seeing things that aren't there." But even as I spoke the words, I was already walking back to my laptop, already opening our joint credit card statements. My restaurant's success meant I rarely scrutinized personal expenses. We had money, not wealthy, but comfortable. Lisa managed the household finances with the same efficiency she brought to the restaurant's books. I trusted her completely, had never had a reason not to. Now, with growing dread that felt like ice spreading through my veins, I filtered for hotel charges. The Marriott downtown, 16 charges over the past year, always on Thursday afternoons when Lisa had her standing book club meeting. The Ritz-Carlton, 8 charges, corresponding with her weekend yoga retreats. The Palmer House, 5 charges during what she told me were restaurant management seminars. Always room service charges added. Always champagne or wine on the bill. Always for 2. I cross-referenced Brian's billing statements to us, the ones I'd barely glanced at before signing. The patterns aligned with sickening precision. Every extended tax planning session corresponded with a hotel charge. Every document review meeting matched a restaurant receipt for lunch at places I'd never been. Intimate bistros, quiet wine bars, the kind of places you took someone when you didn't want to be seen. My phone rang. The sound so sudden in the quiet office that I actually jumped. Lisa's photo filled the screen. A shot from our vacation to Napa 3 years ago, her laughing in a vineyard, sunshine in her dark hair. "Hey, honey." Her voice was bright, normal, without a hint of guilt or deception. "I'm heading to book club. We're discussing that new thriller everyone's talking about. Sandra's hosting, and you know how she is about her wine selection, so don't wait up." The lie came so easily to her. No hesitation, no stumble. How many times had I heard this exact same cheerful announcement? "Which book are you discussing tonight?" I managed to keep my voice steady, though my free hand was clenched so tight my nails dug into my palm. A pause. Brief, but there. "Oh, the new Patterson novel. The one with the female detective? You'd hate it. Total chicklit. All relationship drama and feelings. James Patterson doesn't write chicklit. He writes hardcore crime thrillers, and I'd actually read his latest last month during a slow afternoon at the restaurant. The protagonist was a male FBI agent, and there wasn't a relationship subplot in sight. Have fun, sweetheart." The endearment tasted like ash in my mouth. "Love you. Don't forget to eat something. There's leftover lasagna in the fridge. Love you too." The words were automatic, muscle memory from 15 years of marriage. How many times had we said them? Thousands? Tens of thousands? When had they stopped meaning anything to her? After she hung up, I did something I'd never done before, something that would have appalled me even a week ago. I opened the Find My Phone app. Lisa had insisted we share locations years ago, for safety, she'd said. Chicago can be dangerous. I want to know you're safe, and you should know where I am too. I watched the dot that represented my wife move through the city streets. It should have been heading north toward Sandra's house in Lincoln Park. Instead, it went south, toward downtown. 20 minutes later, the dot stopped moving at the Marriott downtown. The same Marriott that had charged our credit cards 16 times in the past year. I sat in my office staring at that unmoving dot until 2 a.m. During those hours, I went through everything: bank statements, credit card records, phone bills. The evidence was overwhelming when you actually looked for it. Charges for jewelry I'd never seen her wear. Lingerie purchases from boutiques she'd never mentioned. Dinner receipts from restaurants she'd supposedly visited with girlfriends, but always for exactly 2 people. Always with wine. Always with dessert. The conference call with my fish supplier never happened. He texted asking if we were rescheduling. I didn't respond. I couldn't focus on anything except the systematic destruction of my entire understanding of my life. At 2:15 a.m., the dot started moving again. I watched it travel north, toward our house in Wicker Park. I closed the laptop, went to our bedroom, and pretended to be asleep when she slipped in beside me at 2:47 a.m. She smelled wrong. Not like perfume or cologne, that would have been too obvious. She smelled like hotel soap, the generic luxury scent that every high-end hotel uses. She smelled like Egyptian cotton sheets that weren't ours. She smelled like betrayal. The next morning, I made breakfast as I always did on Fridays. It was one of our traditions. No matter how busy the restaurant got, Friday mornings were ours. Scrambled eggs with chives from our garden, thick-cut bacon from the butcher shop down the street, fresh squeezed orange juice. The routine was so familiar I could do it on autopilot, which was good because my mind was somewhere else entirely. Lisa came down in her silk robe, the one I'd bought her in Paris during our 10th anniversary trip. Her hair was still damp from the shower and she'd washed it twice. I could tell by how it fell. Trying to wash away the scent of him, perhaps? Or just the hotel's pillow? "Smells amazing," she said, kissing my cheek. Her lips were soft, familiar. How many times had those same lips kissed Brian? "How was book club?" I asked, plating her eggs exactly how she liked them. Slightly runny, pepper, but no salt. "Great." Sandra went overboard with the wine as usual. I think I had one too many glasses of that Malbec she's obsessed with. She laughed, and it sounded so genuine, I almost doubted myself. Almost. We had the best discussion about the plot twist. Nobody saw the killer's identity coming. I nodded, spreading butter on toast with mechanical precision. "Brian Fitzgerald called yesterday. Said we need to review quarterly estimates." Her hand stilled on her coffee cup for just a moment. If I hadn't been watching for it, I would have missed it. "Oh, when does he want to meet?" "Next Thursday. I told him I could handle it alone this time. You've been so busy with the Anderson event follow-ups." "Don't be silly." Her voice had an edge now, barely perceptible, but there. "You know I like to understand our finances. It's important for both of us to be informed. I'll clear my schedule." I studied her face. This woman I'd loved since we were 26, who'd stood beside me through the restaurant's near bankruptcy in year 3, who'd held my hand through my mother's chemotherapy, who'd cried with joy when we finally turned our first real profit. She looked exactly the same as she had yesterday, last week, last year. Beautiful in that understated way that had first attracted me. Laugh lines around her eyes from what I'd thought were years of shared joy. A small scar on her chin from when she'd fallen off her bike on our 3rd date, requiring 6 stitches and turning what was supposed to be a romantic picnic into an emergency room visit. But now, she felt like a stranger wearing my wife's face, speaking with my wife's voice, living in my wife's life while being someone else entirely. "Actually," I lied, the words coming easier than I expected. "I already met with him. Early morning session yesterday, before the oven disaster. All sorted. Taxes are filed, estimates are paid." Her jaw tightened visibly. "You should have told me. You know I handle the financial records." "You were at yoga." Another lie. She'd been at the hotel with Brian while I was dealing with burned wiring and insurance adjusters. "I wasn't at yoga yesterday." "Right, sorry. Thursday's yoga. Yesterday was... What was yesterday?" My meeting with the Durham event planners. For their wedding in September? Her lie came so smoothly, with just the right amount of mild annoyance that I'd forgotten. I told you about it last week. Of course. Sorry, it's been a crazy week. We ate breakfast in silence, the only sound the scraping of forks against plates and the rain that had started again, drumming against the kitchen windows. I watched her eat, noticed things I'd never paid attention to before. How she checked her phone every few minutes. How she smiled at certain texts. How she angled the screen away from me without seeming to. I might be late tonight, she said, putting her plate in the dishwasher. Jennifer wants to look at venues for her birthday party. You know how she is. Everything has to be perfect. Jennifer was in Cabo for 2 weeks. I knew because she'd posted approximately 300 beach photos on Instagram. But I just nodded. Take your time. I'll be at the restaurant late anyway. New server training. Love you, she said, and kissed me goodbye. Her lips lingered a moment longer than usual, and for a second, I saw something in her eyes. Guilt? Regret? Or was I imagining it? Love you too. After she left, I sat at our kitchen table for an hour, staring at nothing, trying to reconcile the woman who just lied to me so easily with the woman who'd cried at our wedding when she said, I promise to be honest with you, always, in all things. That evening, I messaged Monica Fitzgerald through Instagram. My hands shook as I typed, Your husband and my wife are having an affair. We need to talk. Her response came within 3 minutes. Tomorrow, 7 a.m., Federal Courthouse, East Entrance. Come alone. Bring everything you have. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I went through 15 years of photos looking for signs I'd missed. When had it started? When had she stopped loving me? Or had she ever loved me at all? Was our entire marriage a lie, or just the last year? The questions ate at me like acid. At 3 a.m., I found a photo from last year's tax planning meeting. Lisa and Brian at our conference table, documents spread between them. But looking at it now, knowing what I knew, I could see it. The way they leaned toward each other. How their hands were positioned on the table, almost touching. The flush on Lisa's cheeks that I'd attributed to the warm office. Brian's smile, not professional but intimate, personal. How had I been so blind? At 6:45 a.m., I was standing outside the federal courthouse, rain misting my face. I'd told Lisa I was meeting with a supplier who could only do early morning meetings. Another lie, but what was one more in an ocean of deception? Monica Fitzgerald arrived at exactly 7 a.m., walking with the purposeful stride of someone who owned every room she entered. She was even more formidable in person than in her photos. Tall, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, with the kind of presence that made you stand up straighter. Tom Rodriguez, I extended my hand. Her grip was firm, brief, businesslike. Monica Fitzgerald, though I suppose we're connected in ways neither of us intended or desired. You know about them? I've suspected for 8 months. Brian's patterns changed. Late meetings that didn't appear on his official calendar. Charges on credit cards for expenses that didn't match his stated locations. I'm a prosecutor, Mr. Rodriguez. I'm trained to spot patterns, inconsistencies, lies. She gestured to a coffee cart nearby. Buy me a coffee. We're just two professionals having an early morning meeting if anyone asks. As we walked, she continued, her voice low but clear. Initially, I thought it was just an affair. Disappointing but not uncommon in marriages where one spouse works constantly, and I do work constantly. But then I noticed financial irregularities that went beyond personal expenses. Financial irregularities? I run the financial crimes division. When I started looking into Brian's practice, I found unusual patterns. Money moving through client accounts in ways that suggest laundering. Large cash deposits that don't match reported income. Your wife's restaurant is one of the vehicles. The coffee burned my throat. What are you saying? I'm saying that your wife and my husband aren't just having an affair. They're business partners in criminal activity. Large cash deposits into the Blue Doors accounts, justified as catering events that never happened. Shell companies paying for services never rendered. Brian has been washing money from Marcus Webb through multiple businesses, and your restaurant is a key component. Marcus Webb, the philanthropist whose name appeared on hospital wings and university buildings. The man whose annual charity gala was the social event of the year, which Lisa had been planning for months as part of the organizing committee. You're telling me my wife isn't just cheating? She's a criminal? Monica's laugh was bitter, sharp. Welcome to my world, Mr. Rodriguez. The betrayal is complete, isn't it? They didn't just destroy our marriages, they corrupted everything we built. Every success is tainted. Every achievement is questioned. Was your restaurant's success real, or was it propped up by dirty money? Was my husband's legal practice legitimate, or was it always a front? Jesus Christ. Indeed. She sipped her coffee, studying me over the rim. The question now is what we do about it. What are the options? Option 1. We divorce them quietly, take what we can, and walk away. They continue their affair and their crimes, but we're free. And option 2? She smiled then, and it was terrifying. It was the smile of someone who'd been hurt beyond measure and had decided to return the favor. Option 2 is we destroy them completely, publicly, professionally, and legally. Tell me about option 2. The Webb Foundation Gala is Saturday. 500 guests, including the mayor, federal judges, captains of industry, media. Brian is giving the keynote on ethical philanthropy. The irony in her voice could have cut glass. Your wife is introducing him, speaking about his integrity and leadership. You want to expose them there? I want to annihilate them there. See, I can't prosecute my own husband. Conflict of interest. But I can ensure the evidence becomes so public, so undeniable, that prosecution becomes inevitable. And you, Mr. Rodriguez, can ensure the personal destruction is equally complete. What do you need from me? Everything. Credit card records, phone bills, hotel receipts, photographs. I have Brian's emails, his client files, the financial trails. Together, we have enough to bury them so deep they'll never crawl out. I thought about Lisa that morning, lying about Jennifer's party planning while Jennifer was posting beach selfies from Mexico. When do we start? We already have. Monica pulled out a card. This is my private cell. There's also a name and number on the back. A private investigator who specializes in delicate matters. He's expecting your call. Get everything you can. Friday night, we meet again to coordinate. Why are you trusting me? How do you know I won't warn Lisa? She studied me for a long moment. Because I recognize the look in your eyes. It's the same one I see in the mirror every morning. It's not heartbreak. Heartbreak can heal. It's the realization that the person you trusted most fundamentally betrayed you. That kind of wound doesn't heal. It festers until you either let it poison you or you poison them. And you chose poison. I chose justice. The poison is just a fortunate side effect. The rest of Wednesday was surreal. I went through the motions at the restaurant, supervising lunch service, meeting with vendors, reviewing the weekend's reservations. But my mind was elsewhere, processing the magnitude of what I'd learned. My wife wasn't just unfaithful. She was a criminal. Every deposit I'd celebrated, every busy night I'd attributed to our hard work, might have been dirty money flowing through our accounts. That evening, Lisa came home bubbling with excitement about the gala preparations. She modeled the dress she'd bought, a midnight blue gown that cost more than our first month's rent had been. Brian says I look like a CEO's wife in it, she said, spinning in front of our bedroom mirror. When did Brian see it? I asked, keeping my voice carefully neutral. She froze for just a second. Oh, I sent him a photo. For approval, you know. Since I'm introducing him, he wanted to make sure we coordinated. His tux has a midnight blue cummerbund. How thoughtful of him. She came over, wrapped her arms around me from behind, rested her chin on my shoulder. In the mirror, we looked like the successful couple everyone thought we were. Are you okay? You seem distant lately. Just tired. The oven situation set us back more than expected. Poor baby, she murmured, and kissed my neck. The same neck Brian had probably kissed hours earlier. After the gala, let's take a vacation. Just the two of us. Maybe Hawaii? We haven't been since our fifth anniversary. That sounds nice, I lied, knowing that after Saturday we'd never go anywhere together again. Thursday was torture. I met with the private investigator Monica had recommended, a former FBI agent named Carson who looked like an accountant, but had the eyes of someone who'd seen too much. He'd already pulled security footage from 3 hotels, showing Lisa and Brian entering and leaving together on dozens of occasions. You want me to continue? He asked, sliding a flash drive across the table. There's more. Parking garages, restaurants, even your own security cameras from the restaurant. Our security cameras? They used your office. Multiple times. After hours when you were gone. My office. The place where I'd built my dreams. Where I'd proposed to Lisa by hiding the ring in a takeout container from our first date spot. They defiled even that. Get everything, I told him. Every single moment you can find. That night, I watched Lisa practice her speech for the gala. She stood in our living room, using the fireplace mantle as a makeshift podium, delivering words about Brian's integrity, his dedication to ethical business practices, his role as a trusted advisor to so many. Each word was another nail in the coffin of our marriage. How's it sound? She asked when she finished. Perfect, I said. Absolutely perfect. Friday afternoon, I met Monica at a parking garage downtown. She handed me a USB drive while I gave her copies of everything Carson had found. This contains Brian's emails to Webb about moving money, correspondence with Lisa about the restaurant accounts, photos from their trips to Vegas and Miami. Charged to Webb's foundation, by the way. They weren't even smart enough to use personal cards. Christ, they were arrogant. Arrogance is usually what brings them down. She paused. The FBI will have agents at the gala. They think they're providing security for Webb. They don't know they'll be making arrests. How did you manage that? I may be recused from prosecuting, but I have friends. Good people who believe in justice and hate corruption as much as I do. She studied me. Are you ready for this? Once we start, there's no going back. Your marriage ends tomorrow. Your business partnership with Lisa ends. Your life, as you know it, ends. I thought about the life I'd built, the dreams we'd shared, the future I'd planned. All of it was already gone. I just hadn't admitted it yet. It ended the moment she chose him. I'm just catching up to reality. Good. Then let's discuss the timeline. We spent 2 hours coordinating every detail. When Lisa would give her introduction. When the video would play. When Monica would stand up. When the FBI would move in. It was choreographed like a brutal ballet. Every movement designed for maximum impact. Saturday arrived with perfect Chicago spring weather. Clear skies, warm breeze, the kind of day that made everything feel like a movie. Lisa spent the entire day at the venue, managing last-minute details, texting me updates about flower arrangements and sound checks. I told her I'd meet her there. I had a restaurant emergency to handle first. Another lie, but lies had become our language. I spent the day at the restaurant not handling an emergency but saying goodbye. I walked through the kitchen where I'd spent countless hours perfecting recipes. Sat in the dining room where I'd proposed to Lisa. Stood in the office where she and Brian had betrayed me in the most fundamental way possible. By the end of the day, I had made peace with losing it all. Some things were worth more than money or success. Things like truth, like justice, like self-respect. I arrived at the Ritz-Carlton at 6:30 p.m. The ballroom was magnificent. Crystal chandeliers casting rainbow patterns on white tablecloths, towers of white roses that must have cost thousands, a stage with massive screens for presentations. Lisa had outdone herself. In another life, I would have been proud of her. She stood near the podium in that midnight blue gown, and despite everything, she took my breath away. Beautiful, poised, confident, every inch the successful businesswoman she'd wanted to be. Brian stood beside her in his coordinating tux, and they looked like they belonged together. Maybe they did. Maybe I'd always been the outsider in my own marriage. Monica entered at exactly 7 p.m., wearing a black cocktail dress that was elegant but severe, like armor disguised as evening wear. She took her assigned seat at a table near the back, invisible to her husband, who was too busy charming donors at the head table. We made eye contact once, a brief nod that said everything was in place. The cocktail hour passed in a blur of small talk and false smiles. People congratulated me on the restaurant's success, complimented Lisa's event planning, praised Brian's financial acumen. I smiled and nodded and counted down the minutes until their world would explode. Dinner was served at 7:45. 5 courses of perfection that tasted like cardboard to me. Lisa floated between tables, the perfect hostess, occasionally touching Brian's shoulder as she passed, a gesture so natural that no one else would notice it was intimate rather than professional. But I noticed. I noticed everything now. At 8:30, Marcus Webb took the stage for opening remarks. He spoke about the Foundation's mission, the importance of financial literacy, the generous donors who made their work possible. The irony of a money launderer promoting financial literacy wasn't lost on me. I wondered if Monica was enjoying it as much as I was. Then Webb announced, and now, to introduce our keynote speaker, please welcome Lisa Rodriguez, co-owner of the Blue Door restaurant and one of our most dedicated volunteers. Lisa walked to the podium with practiced grace, her smile bright enough to light the entire ballroom. The screens behind her showed a professional photo of Brian, looking every inch the trustworthy advisor. Good evening, everyone. It's my absolute privilege to introduce tonight's keynote speaker, a man whose integrity and wisdom have guided not just this foundation, but countless businesses and families toward financial success and ethical prosperity. I moved toward the AV booth, my heart pounding so hard I was sure everyone could hear it. The operator, a bored-looking kid with gauges in his ears and tattoos creeping out from under his collar, barely looked up from his phone. Hey, I said, slipping him $500 bills. When she's done speaking, play this instead of the planned video. I handed him a USB drive. It's a surprise tribute video we put together. He pocketed the money with a shrug that suggested this wasn't the first time someone had paid him to go off script. Sure thing, man. You want me to play it right when she's done? The second she finishes. Don't wait for any cue. Lisa continued from the podium, her voice carrying clearly through the room's perfect acoustics. Brian Fitzgerald exemplifies everything we aspire to: honesty, dedication, and an unwavering commitment to doing what's right. He's been my personal advisor, my mentor, and... She paused, smiled warmly at Brian, in a way that would have seemed professional to anyone who didn't know the truth. My trusted friend, who has guided some of the most important decisions in my business. The audience applauded. Brian stood, buttoning his jacket with practiced ease, preparing to take the stage. He looked confident, successful, untouchable. Please welcome Brian Fitzgerald. The applause reached its crescendo. Brian was halfway to the podium when the screens behind Lisa flickered to life. The first image stopped the room cold. Security footage, time stamped 3 weeks ago, 2:47 p.m., the middle of what was supposed to be a tax planning meeting. Brian and Lisa entering the Marriott downtown together, his hand possessively on her lower back, her head tilted up toward him in an unmistakably intimate gesture. Then another image, them kissing in the hotel elevator, her hands in his hair, his pressing her against the wall. Then another, leaving a room together at 5:23 p.m., disheveled, Lisa adjusting her skirt, Brian straightening his tie. The pattern repeated through dozens of images, each one time-stamped, each one destroying any possibility of innocent explanation. The Ritz-Carlton, the Palmer House. Even grainy footage from the restaurant's security camera showing them in my office after hours, though thankfully the resolution was too poor to show details. The ballroom was dead silent, except for the hum of the projection system. Lisa turned, saw the screen, and her face went white. What? Turn it off! Turn it off now! But the presentation continued, shifting to text messages. Can't wait to see you tonight. Tell Tom it's book club. Miss you already. Monica thinks I'm at a client dinner. The quarterly meeting excuse is getting old. We need new reasons to meet. I love you, Brian. I love you too, Lisa. More than I've ever loved anyone. Then financial documents began appearing. deposits to the Blue Door from Webb's Foundation for catering services, with corresponding emails showing the events never existed. Invoices for hundreds of thousands of dollars in services never rendered. Bank transfers that traced a clear path from Webb's illegal enterprises through Brian's client accounts into Lisa's restaurant. Monica stood up, her voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. Point of order! 500 heads turned toward her in unison. As a federal prosecutor with the Financial Crimes Division, I have a duty to report criminal activity when I encounter it, regardless of personal relationships. She walked toward the stage with measured steps, each click of her heels on the marble floor echoing in the silent ballroom. This includes financial fraud, money laundering, and embezzlement perpetrated by my own husband and his co-conspirators. The gasps rippled through the crowd like a wave. Brian stood frozen at the podium, his prepared speech cards scattered on the floor where he dropped them. Monica continued, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had prosecuted dozens of criminals and never lost a case. The FBI has been investigating Marcus Webb's foundation for 18 months. We now have incontrovertible evidence that Brian Fitzgerald, the foundation's financial advisor, has been facilitating money laundering through multiple businesses, including the Blue Door restaurant owned by Tom and Lisa Rodriguez. On cue, FBI agents entered through the service doors, 6 of them wearing the understated suits that somehow screamed federal authority. The guests sat in stunned silence. The mayor was at table 3, his mouth hanging open. 4 federal judges were scattered throughout the room, their expressions shifting from shock to grim understanding. Every major media outlet had sent society reporters to cover what was supposed to be a celebration of philanthropy. I took the microphone from the AV booth, my voice steadier than I'd expected. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Tom Rodriguez. The Blue Door has been my life's work for 15 years, built alongside the woman I loved and trusted completely. 3 days ago, I discovered that my wife and our tax attorney have been having an affair for over a year. But worse than the personal betrayal is the professional one. They've used my restaurant, my reputation, my life's work to commit federal crimes. Tom, please, Lisa's voice cracked. You don't understand. I understand everything. I clicked to the next slide. Credit card statements showing every hotel charge, every dinner, every piece of jewelry I'd never seen her wear. Every book club that was really a hotel room. Every yoga retreat that was really a weekend with Brian. Every late meeting that was really this. The screen showed a photo from Brian's phone, recovered by Carson through methods I didn't want to know about. Brian and Lisa in Las Vegas, a trip she told me was a restaurant management conference. They were at a chapel, laughing, Lisa wearing a veil, clearly drunk, mock marrying each other while actually married to other people. The FBI agents moved toward the stage. The lead agent, a woman with steel gray hair and eyes like winter, spoke clearly enough for everyone to hear. Brian Fitzgerald, you're under arrest for money laundering, wire fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, and violation of federal tax laws. Lisa Rodriguez, you're under arrest for the same charges. You have the right to remain silent. Monica! Brian's voice cracked like a teenager's. You can't do this! We have children! Think of our children! Monica's face was carved from stone. I am thinking of them. They deserve better than a father who's a criminal and a liar. They deserve to grow up with integrity, even if that means growing up without you. As the agents cuffed them, Webb tried to slip out through the service entrance. More agents intercepted him before he reached the door. The entire gala dissolved into chaos. Phones out recording everything, reporters rushing forward, society matrons either fainting or pretending to faint for dramatic effect. Lisa looked at me as they led her away, tears streaming down her face, mascara running in black rivers. Tom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant... You never meant to get caught, I finished for her. I know. Please, the restaurant is already gone. The feds will seize it as evidence. Everything we built is destroyed. I loved you, she said. And for a moment, she looked like the 26-year-old I'd fallen in love with, vulnerable and scared. No, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. You loved what I could give you. You loved the success, the status, the money. But you never loved me. If you had, you wouldn't have been able to do this. They led her away in handcuffs, her midnight blue gown dragging on the floor, her perfectly styled hair falling apart, the image of her being arrested already trending on social media before she even reached the door. The aftermath was swift, brutal, and complete. By Sunday morning, the story was everywhere. Charity Gala turns FBI raid, screamed from the Tribune's front page. CNN picked it up for the national news cycle. Restaurant owner exposes wife's affair and crimes at black tie gala became the most read story on 3 different news websites. Brian's law license was suspended immediately pending investigation. The Illinois State Bar Association launched a comprehensive review of every client he'd ever represented, looking for other instances of fraud or money laundering. Within 48 hours, 17 former clients had filed complaints. His practice, built over 20 years, was destroyed in a weekend. The Blue Door was shut down by federal order Monday morning. FBI agents arrived with warrants, seizing computers, files, everything. Health department officials came next, finding violations that were really evidence markers for financial crimes. The restaurant I'd spent 15 years building, where I'd worked 100-hour weeks, where I'd poured my heart and soul into every dish, was dead in less than 48 hours. I stood across the street watching them tape off the entrance, remembering the day we'd opened. Lisa and I had been so young, so full of hope. We'd painted those blue doors ourselves because we couldn't afford to hire someone. She'd gotten paint in her hair and laughed about it for hours. That couple was as dead as the restaurant. I met Monica for coffee a week later at a small cafe nowhere near the courthouse or the restaurant. She looked exhausted but satisfied, like a general who'd won a costly battle. "Brian's taking a plea deal," she said without preamble. 10 to 15 years, possibly out in 8 with good behavior. He's agreed to testify against Webb and provide information about other clients who were using his services for illegal purposes. What about Lisa? 5 to 7, probably out in 3 if she cooperates fully. Her lawyer's arguing she was manipulated by Brian, that she didn't fully understand the financial crimes. It's nonsense, but juries sometimes buy the confused woman defense. She's not confused. She knew exactly what she was doing. I know that. You know that. But proving it in court is different. She stirred her coffee thoughtfully. "How are you holding up?" I don't know, empty, relieved, angry, all of it at once?" I laughed bitterly. 15 years of marriage, gone. 15 years of building a business, destroyed. I should be devastated, but mostly I just feel free. That's normal. The devastation comes later, usually at 3 in the morning when you can't sleep. Speaking from experience? 8 months of experience ever since I first suspected. The actual confirmation was almost a relief. At least I could stop wondering and start acting. "What about your kids?" Her face softened slightly. "They're with my mother in Wisconsin. I told them Daddy had to go away for work and wouldn't be back for a long time. The older one knows something's wrong. He's seen the news, heard kids at school talking. But he's strong. They both are. They'll survive this. And you? I've been promoted. Turns out exposing corruption, even when it's your spouse, is good for your career in the Justice Department." Her smile was sardonic. "I'm the new chief of the Financial Crimes Division. My first act was to establish a task force specifically targeting attorney-facilitated money laundering." "The Brian Fitzgerald Memorial Task Force?" She actually laughed. The first genuine laugh I'd heard from her. "I like that. Unofficially, of course." We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, 2 people who'd been through the same war bearing similar scars. "What will you do now?" she asked. "I'm buying the restaurant space when it goes to auction. The feds have to sell it, and I know that kitchen better than anyone. I'm thinking of calling it Karma." "That's either brilliant or terrible." "Both. But it feels right. Take something built on lies and rebuild it on truth." Very philosophical for a chef. Very human for a prosecutor. She raised her coffee cup. "To Karma, then." To Karma. 6 months later, Karma opened to rave reviews. The story had become Chicago legend by then, the kind of tale that got embellished with each telling. People came partly for the food. I'd kept the best dishes from the Blue Door, but added new ones, recipes that were mine alone, but mostly for the story. They wanted to eat where justice had been served alongside the appetizers. I'd hired an entirely new staff, people who had no connection to the old restaurant or the old life. My sous chef was a young woman named Maria who'd been working at a chain restaurant, talented but never given a chance to shine. My manager was an ex cop named Derek, who understood the importance of doing things by the book. Every hire was clean, every transaction transparent. The walls were decorated with photos of the new beginning, the renovation, the new team, the first day's service. But in my office, I kept one photo from the old life. The Blue Door on opening day, Lisa and I standing proudly in front. Not as nostalgia, but as a reminder. A reminder that things aren't always what they seem. That trust should be earned, not given. That sometimes the person sleeping next to you is a stranger. Brian wrote me a letter from federal prison. I recognized his handwriting on the envelope, the same handwriting that had signed our tax returns, that had authorized the deposits that destroyed everything. I burned it unopened in the kitchen's flame, watching the paper curl and blacken. Some words didn't deserve to be read. Lisa's letter I read. It arrived 3 months into her sentence, written on prison stationery in her familiar looping script. Tom, I know I have no right to write to you, no right to ask for your time or attention. But I need you to know some things, even if they don't matter anymore. I did love you. I know you don't believe that, and I don't blame you, but it's true. I loved you when we were young and broke and painting those doors ourselves. I loved you when we were working 20-hour days to keep the restaurant afloat. I loved you when we finally succeeded. But somewhere along the way, I started loving the idea of more. More success, more money, more excitement. Brian offered me a different life, one where I wasn't just a restaurant owner's wife, but a player in bigger games. The financial stuff started small, just moving some cash through our books, nothing that seemed harmful. By the time I understood what we were really doing, I was in too deep. The affair was separate from the money, or at least it started that way. Brian made me feel important in a way that wasn't connected to you or the restaurant. I was Lisa with him, not Tom's wife or the Blue Door's co-owner, just Lisa. I hadn't realized how much I'd lost myself until I felt like I'd found myself with him. I'm not asking for forgiveness. What I did is unforgivable. I destroyed our marriage, our business, our future. I betrayed you in every way possible. I just wanted you to know that the love was real, even if everything else was a lie. I hope you find happiness. Real happiness with someone who deserves you. Lisa. I read it twice, then filed it away. I wrote back once, a single line. I hope you find peace. I have. And I had mostly. There were still nights when I woke up at 3 a.m., remembering some moment that now seemed tainted. Our anniversary dinner at Alania, where she'd worn the emerald earrings, had Brian bought them. The weekend in Michigan when she'd seemed distracted, was she thinking of him? The thousand small intimacies of marriage that now felt like evidence in a case I was still prosecuting in my mind. But those nights became less frequent. New memories began to overlay the old ones. The first successful Saturday service at Karma. The food critic from the Tribune calling our new tasting menu revolutionary. The night a young couple got engaged at table 7, and the entire restaurant applauded. Monica came in regularly, sometimes alone with a book and a glass of wine, sometimes with colleagues celebrating victories in court. We'd become friends in the way that survivors of the same disaster become friends, bonded by shared trauma and mutual respect. One evening, almost exactly a year after the gala, she came in with her kids. The boys were taller, the older one now 13 and starting to look remarkably like Brian, though with Monica's sharp intelligence in his eyes. Mom says you're the one who helped catch Dad, he said, the same direct approach as his mother. Your mom caught him. I just helped with the presentation. She says you're a good man who was in a bad situation. That's generous of her. The younger one, now 11, looked around the restaurant with interest. Did you really call it karma because of what happened? I did. That's cool. Like, what goes around comes around, right? Exactly right. Monica smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed her face. They wanted to meet you properly. You're something of a legend in their school. The man who exposed the bad guys at the fancy party. I'm just a restaurant owner. No, the older boy said seriously. You're someone who did the right thing even when it hurt. Mom says that's the definition of integrity. Out of the mouths of babes. They ordered pizza and pasta, simple foods that made them just kids having dinner with their mom. As I watched them, I thought about the children Lisa and I had never had. We'd always said we were waiting for the restaurant to be more stable, but now I wondered if some part of her had known our foundation wasn't solid enough to build a family on. Claire came into my life 6 months later, walking into Karma on a rainy Tuesday with paint in her hair and a smile that wasn't trying to sell me anything. She was an artist, teaching at the Art Institute, completely unimpressed by my notorious story. Everyone knows about the Gala guy, she said on our first real date. But I'm more interested in who you are now than who you were then. Who am I now? Someone who makes incredible food and has terrible taste in restaurant names. Karma's a great name. It's a pun masquerading as philosophy. Maybe I'm a pun masquerading as a person. She laughed, really laughed, and I realized I hadn't made anyone laugh like that in years. Lisa had stopped finding me funny long before the affair, though I hadn't noticed at the time. Claire painted a mural on Karma's back wall, a phoenix rising from flames. 2 on the nose? She asked. Perfect. My whole life is 2 on the nose now. She moved in 8 months later, bringing chaos and color to my carefully ordered life. She painted in the spare bedroom I turned into a studio for her, leaving drops of paint on the hardwood floors that I didn't mind. She sang off-key in the shower and burned toast with religious consistency, and loved me with an openness that was the opposite of Lisa's calculated affection. Does it bother you? I asked one night. My history? What happened? Your history is what made you who you are, she said simply. And I love who you are. 2 years after the gala, I got word that Lisa had been released. She'd served 18 months with good behavior, testified against Webb and 3 other conspirators. The prosecutor, one of Monica's protégés, said she'd been a model witness, precise and unemotional in her testimony. She came to Karma on a Tuesday afternoon when she knew it would be quiet. Monica had warned me she was out, so I was expecting her. She looked smaller, diminished. Prison had taken the polish off her, left her looking older than her 43 years. She stood in the doorway uncertainly, as if asking permission to enter a space she'd once owned. Hi, Tom. Lisa. The place looks good. Different but good. I like what you've done with it. Thanks. We stood there, 15 years of history compressed into an awkward silence. She looked around, taking in the changes, new color scheme, new layout, Claire's mural dominating the back wall. I'm not here to ask for anything, she said finally. I know there's nothing to ask for. I just wanted to see it once more, to apologize in person, I don't know. Close the circle? Consider it closed. She nodded, turned to leave, then stopped. Is it true Monica Fitzgerald was made chief prosecutor? Yes, she's good at it. I bet she is. We underestimated her. You underestimated both of us. Yes, we did. She paused at the door. Be happy, Tom. Really happy. You deserve it. She left, and I never saw her again. I heard she moved to Phoenix, got a bookkeeping job with a small firm that believed in second chances. She lived quietly, anonymously, the opposite of the life she'd wanted when she'd fallen for Brian's promises of more. Brian served 8 years. Monica told me when he was released, professional courtesy, she called it. He disappeared completely, changed his name, moved to Maine or Montana or somewhere else where his past wouldn't follow. His children didn't acknowledge him. His legal career was dead, his reputation destroyed. Everything he'd built over 20 years erased in one evening. Webb died in prison. Heart attack in his cell, alone except for the guards who found him during morning count. His fortune was seized, liquidated, distributed to legitimate charities. Some of it, ironically, actually went to financial literacy programs for underprivileged youth. Monica made sure of that. The documentary came out 3 years after the gala. The Perfect Storm, A Night of Justice won an Emmy for Best Crime Documentary. They interviewed Monica extensively. She was compelling on screen, articulate, and fierce. They wanted to interview me, but I declined. My story had been told in the moment. I didn't need to relive it for cameras. Claire and I watched it together on our couch, her head on my shoulder, occasionally pausing to point out inaccuracies or dramatizations. They make you look very heroic, she said. I wasn't heroic. I was angry. Sometimes they're the same thing. The documentary ended with footage from Karma's opening night, the restaurant full of people who knew the story and came anyway, or maybe because of it. The final shot was of the Phoenix mural, rising from flames into something new. 2 on the nose, Claire said. Perfect for us, I replied. 5 years after the gala, Monica made national news for prosecuting the biggest financial fraud case in Illinois history. She stood at a podium, confident and commanding, explaining how a network of attorneys had facilitated billions in money laundering. The Brian Fitzgerald Memorial Task Force, as I still thought of it, had grown into a major operation. She came to Karma that night to celebrate, bringing her team. Her boys were there too. The older one, now 18 and headed to college to study law, the right way, he said. The younger one, 16, was more interested in girls than justice, which Monica said was perfectly normal and probably healthier. We did good, she said, raising a glass of champagne. That night, as horrible as it was, led to this. Dozens of criminals prosecuted, millions recovered, justice served. Was it worth it? I asked. Everything we lost? She considered this. I lost a husband who was a criminal and a liar. You lost a wife who was the same. We lost lives built on lies. So yes, it was worth it. The truth is always worth it. We toasted to that. To truth, to justice, to karma. Now, 10 years later, Karma is an institution. We've won awards, been featured in food magazines, become a destination for food tourists. But more than that, we've become a symbol. Couples come here for anniversaries, celebrating honest love. Business partners meet here to sign deals, trusting in transparency. People celebrate victories and mourn defeats, all in a place that rose from the ashes of deception. Claire and I married 2 years ago in a small ceremony in the restaurant, surrounded by the people who'd stood by us. Monica gave a toast that made everyone cry, talking about resilience and redemption, about choosing to build rather than just destroy. Tom could have just torn everything down, she said. Instead, he built something better. That's the real karma, not just getting what you deserve, but creating what you deserve. Lisa sent a card, just a simple message. Congratulations! Be happy! I kept it, not out of nostalgia, but as proof that even broken people can wish wholeness for others. Brian never reached out. Monica says he lives like a ghost, present but not really there, existing but not living. His children graduated high school, went to college, built lives without him. The older one is in law school now, determined to be everything his father wasn't. Sometimes I think about that Thursday evening when I saw the Instagram photo that changed everything. Such a small thing. A casual shot at a party, Lisa and Brian in the background, standing too close. If I hadn't seen it, would they still be together? Would the money laundering have continued? Would Webb still be destroying lives with dirty money? But I did see it. And I acted. And while the action destroyed my old life, it created space for this new one. Claire is pregnant. We found out last week. She painted a small pair of wings on the Phoenix mural, a baby phoenix ready to fly. 2 on the nose, as always, but perfect for us. We're going to raise our child in truth, in a home built on honesty rather than deception. They'll grow up in the restaurant, learning that karma isn't just about punishment. It's about the natural consequences of our choices, good and bad. Monica's older son is working at Karma this summer before he starts law school. He's earnest and careful, triple-checking every order, determined to do everything right. I see his father in his face sometimes, but I see his mother in his character. Do you ever forgive them? He asked me once during a slow afternoon. My dad and Lisa? Forgiveness isn't mine to give, I told him. They need to forgive themselves. Have they? I don't know. That's their karma to work out. He nodded, understanding in a way that showed his mother's influence. My mom says the opposite of betrayal isn't revenge, it's integrity. Your mom's pretty smart. She says you taught her that. We taught each other. The lunch rush starts soon. Claire is at her studio at the Art Institute, teaching undergraduates about color theory while hiding her morning sickness. Monica is probably in court, prosecuting someone who thought they were clever enough to beat the system. Lisa is somewhere living quietly with her choices. Brian is somewhere living with his. And I'm here, in Karma, the restaurant that rose from the ashes of the Blue Door. We're fully booked for dinner, like we are most nights. People still come for the story, but they return for the food and the atmosphere of a place where truth matters. The phoenix on the wall watches over it all, painted by the woman I love, in the space I rebuilt, serving food that's honest and real. It's too on the nose, too obvious a metaphor, too perfect a symbol. But then again, so is calling the restaurant Karma. Some stories deserve their obvious endings. Some metaphors should be painted in bright colors on the wall for everyone to see. Some karma should be served hot, fresh, and with a side of justice. That's what I learned that night at the gala, watching my wife get arrested in her midnight blue gown while 500 people recorded it on their phones. Sometimes the best revenge isn't living well. It's making sure the truth is too bright to ignore, too loud to silence, too real to deny. The door chimes. The lunch crowd is starting to arrive. Time to serve karma, one plate at a time, one truth at a time, one day at a time. The blue door is dead. Long live karma. And that's enough, more than enough. It's everything.